It's time to get wild. Let's do it.
Folks, and welcome into our first ever Wild Sports Talk NFL free agency special here on the MI6 Sports Network. As usual, Isaiah Leung joining you from the Bay Area along with Jonathan Mathis and Sammy Sharp as well. John Mathis, I will start with you first. Good evening to you, my friend, and how was your weekend, bud?
Hey guys, my weekend was great. It was kind of quiet. Just hung around the house as I usually do. I'm kind of a homebody because I always find something entertaining to do around the house. If it's not reading, if it's not looking up sports stats, if it's not watching movies, and I'm still a little bit uncomfortable going out right now. Once I know more people are vaccinated, once I know that this virus, that the numbers will continue to go down, I'll feel a little bit better about going out. But I had a pretty good weekend, spent time with my baby girl and my fiance, and it was just a nice, peaceful weekend. How about you guys?
Hey, I had a very quiet. Well, I had to work on Sunday, so I had to get up like really early and go to work. But other than that, it was pretty quiet and peaceful up here in the Bay. But Sammy Sharp, I'll go to you next. Good evening to you, my friend, and thanks for joining us tonight on our first ever Wild Sports Talk NFL free agency special. We got a lot of stuff to get into, but before we get into that, how are you doing, and how was your weekend?
That was a very nice weekend. I also worked on the weekend. You got a lot of sports watching this weekend with Loyola Chicago winning their conference, and watched other couple of big college basketball games. And the All-Star game was kind of fun to watch with Steph Curry and LeBron James being on the same team. So that was very, very fun to watch. But it was a very calm, relaxing weekend this weekend.
Yeah, wasn't the Loyola Marymount game? Wasn't that one was that Drake that also played Loyola, or am I missing something there?
Yeah, I believe so. That was Drake. Yes, that was Drake that played like Loyola. I always butcher their name.
Yeah, that name is really really hard to sound out.
Because I have a slight speech impediment, so I always had trouble with my R's and my L's for some strange reason, So please bear with me, people.
John, don't worry, man. You're fine. But yeah, I don't think you're the only one that butchers Loyola. Oh my gosh, even I can't say it. That's how hard it is to pronounce. But before we get into, the stuff that we're going to talk about on tonight's show, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys go out and check out the MI6 Sports Network Facebook page. Give us a like and a follow. Also check out our MI6 Sports Network YouTube channel, link down below right there. You guys can go check that out. We got some new stuff going on there as well, and also go to the MI6 Sports Network website and go check that out as well. We have our podcasts up there. We have sports articles up there. You guys can go check that out for some really great stuff. But before we get into our NFL free agency preview and predictions for this season, We got some breaking news, fellas, out of the NFL. Well, fellas, we were supposed to get into our free agency preview, but then Adam Schefter dropped a bomb on everyone a couple of hours ago, and that was the Cowboys have finally reached a long-term deal with their star quarterback, Dak Prescott. The deal is 4 years, $160 million. Dak Prescott gets his wish. He gets that $40+ million that he was asking for, and he also gets his wish of eclipsing Deshaun Watson in terms of being the second highest paid player behind Patrick Mahomes. And also, one thing that's really that blows your mind about this deal comes in this tweet by Adam Schefter, and that says the deal includes $66 million signing bonus, and also $75 million, not in the whole deal, but in year number one. Just absolutely stunning. But John Mathis, you have been very outspoken when it comes to Dak Prescott, and you didn't think the Dallas Cowboys should give him that $40+ million per year that he wanted. Now that the deal is in, what is your reaction to this move by Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, you know what? Finally, at last, they got something done. It's finally done and over with. I'm glad because now we don't have to hear about it anymore. You was hearing about this on First Take. You was hearing about this on Sports Center. I mean, this was dominating headlines for a very long time because for a long time, the two parties couldn't, reach an agreement on a new deal and couldn't get anything done. I thought that Dak would go into this season, by using the franchise tag again. Well, turns out the franchise tag is no longer his best friend because he agreed to the second largest deal, the second highest paying deal in NFL history. Now he is right behind Patrick Mahomes. It's crazy to me because what has he proven to us? A lot of Cowboy fans are being delusional about this. They're saying that he proved it last season, that he was worthy of all this money, that he earned a big paycheck. No, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. He is not worth that much money. $75 million in 1 year. That's crazy. And 160. What is it? How much is it guaranteed? 126 million guaranteed. So that's a record-breaking deal right there.
John, it's the exact numbers are 4 years, $160 million, $126 million in guaranteed money. It's a $40 million average annual value, and it is it's $66 million in signing bonus, and that would equal to $75 million for year one of this contract.
Isaiah, have you gotten into the playoffs? Sammy and Isaiah, have you gotten into the playoffs?
I believe once or twice.
Okay, what have you done when the Cowboys reached the playoffs?
Not much.
So, I mean, I understand that, this deal was going to likely get done because of the market that it is for quarterbacks now. Quarterbacks are in high demand. People value the quarterback position. So I could see why he got paid this money. Now, that doesn't mean he's worth all of this money because he's definitely not. He's definitely not a top-tier quarterback in this league. He is not a proven franchise quarterback. I think Jerry Jones was pressured to get something done for Dak Prescott. I think he knew that he wouldn't win this battle, that Dak and his agent had all the leverage in the world to kind of dictate how this all plays out. And look what happened. Dak got his wish. He's getting paid all this money now. He used his power to manipulate Jerry Jones and that front office to get something done. He had a great influence on, the Cowboys making this move finally happen. Now the deal is done. But I mean, you know what? If it's given to you, you're gonna take it, right? But Dak Prescott, to me, it is not someone who is spectacular. I said it before that he is a good quarterback, but he's not great. There's a difference. He's a good quarterback because he does enough to get by. You know, uh, um, I just don't like this deal. I think it's going to turn out to be a bad contract. I think he's getting paid too much, and I'm just scared that this is gonna backfire in the Cowboys' face big time. Because look, if he underperforms and he doesn't live up to the hype of that contract, it's gonna be Jared Goff 2.0, and you're gonna hear the critics come after Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys for making this deal. This wasn't well thought of. I mean, the Cowboys just rushed to get a deal done because they waited too long in the first place to get the deal done. So they found themselves rushing later on. And I mean, look what happened. Now you're paying this guy, the second highest contract in NFL history. This is a big mistake. A big mistake.
Yeah, excellent points, John Mathis. And I think I gotta, piggyback off what you said and agree with you. I do not like this deal by the Dallas Cowboys. I'm glad that Dak Prescott finally got his money and his long-term contract, because the guy, he doesn't deserve the money, the $40 million per year, but he definitely deserves to get paid. And I love it when, each player in the NFL gets paid for what they do on the football field. So that's a good thing. But I think that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys just committed franchise suicide. I really do. I think that the Dallas Cowboys, like you said, John, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. And now you're going to pay him more than Deshaun Watson is getting. It's absolutely ludicrous. I think that Dak Prescott, I just have a hard time seeing this turn out to be a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys with how much they're paying him, especially in year one. And now Dak has to pretty much lead the Dallas Cowboys to the Super Bowl, or everybody else will think that this deal is a buzz. And if I was Jerry Jones and if I was Dallas, I wouldn't have even given Dak Prescott $35 million a year, let alone $40 million a year. I know the quarterback, the quarterback market is always fluctuating, going higher and higher each and every day. But Dak Prescott is not worth 35, let alone $40 million per year. And I would have done what Sammy Sharp brought up last week on Wild Sports Talk, which was I would have drafted a quarterback with my top pick in the upcoming draft, and then use all the money that I saved from, from not paying Dak Prescott, and instead using my rookie quarterback's rookie contract. I would have used that money that I saved, a lot of money that I saved. I would have used that and spread it to helping my team improve, whether it's the offensive line, the defensive line, the linebackers, the safety. That defense needs a lot of improvement and it needs a lot of help. I would have done that instead of paying Dak all that money to play for the Dallas Cowboys. But Sammy, I want to go to you next on this. Dak Prescott gets paid $40 million per year, 4 years, $160 million with $126 million guaranteed. He's now the second highest paid player in the NFL. What is your reaction to this move by Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys? And do you think that this deal will turn out to be a good thing or a bad one for Dallas?
Well, I think it is a desperation move by Dallas. They want to stay relevant, and by staying relevant, they don't want to be horrible. They want to be good enough to be a 9-7, 10-6 team to put fans in the stands is what they want to do. As far as all this Dak Prescott slander, I think we also have to remember this is a franchise level quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but he's franchise level. He's a good enough quarterback to keep in a franchise for a long time. Last time this guy started, he threw for 4,900 yards, had 30-something touchdowns, was second in the league in passing yards, and was in top 10 in passing QBR, and was also voted in as one of the top 100 players in the league by his peers. So we also have to keep that in mind when we're talking about Dak Prescott. This isn't no slouch, right? He's easily the best player on the team. As far as the hype of the contract that you guys are bringing up, I don't think there's any hype to this contract. This was not a smart contract. We were all saying, and I think 90% of people would say that he's being overpaid. Okay, I don't think that there's any hype for him to bring, if there's any disappointment to him winning a Super Bowl, because no one's expecting Dak Prescott to realistically win a Super Bowl with the Cowboys roster that is going to be paying him around 40-50 million a year and having next to no cap space to fill out the rest of the team around him. I don't realistically see him having the expectations of the Super Bowl. So, and as far as keeping him on the team, I don't think I think that it was a smart move to keep him on the team if they wanted to, win within the next 3-4 years. But paying him that much money, I do not agree with at all. And I think that by paying him that much money, they're limiting the team severely. And we're probably going to be looking at a team that's going to be picking in the top 15, 10 in the draft next few years because they can't build around anything with how much money they're spending on Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I just think that this really severely handcuffs Jerry Jones and Dallas's ability to build a team around Dallas. But John Mathis, I see you have a point. Go ahead, man.
Like you said earlier, they committed franchise suicide because now they screwed themselves over by, putting the faith in the hands of a quarterback who, once again, is unproven. They paid him a ton of money, and now that prevents them from building around him and even, revamping that defense, because that defense needs a lot of work. That defense is a work in progress. That defense didn't look good last year. It was terrible. And I don't care if they have this, high octane offense, this flashy offense with a bunch of big name players. It's not going to matter if you don't have a defense, because I'm going to go back to the old cliche here. Defense wins games. And that's something that the Dallas Cowboys don't have. I just think the Cowboys made a dreadful mistake by paying Dak Prescott so much money. But I understand why the deal got done. That's the market it is now. The market is always fluctuating, like you said, for quarterbacks. And, Patrick Mahomes reset the market. He got $500 million. And this was just, something that we should have kind of seen coming. Did we think that Dak would be a Cowboy for maybe 4 more years? No, I don't think we had that in mind. I think we thought maybe he would walk in free agency after next season and end up getting that money somewhere else. I don't think we're surprised by the amount of money that he got. I think we're more surprised that he is staying for another 4 years with the Cowboys, making that kind of money in Dallas.
I have a question. John, how do you think that Dak Prescott is unproven? Where's he unproven at?
It's just that he hasn't done enough in the postseason for me. He hasn't done enough in the regular season to make me think that he's their quarterback in the future. I got to see a little bit more. I got to see him at full strength. I think that, we will really know who he is now that he has this contract in his hand. I'm interested to see how well he plays this season, but it's just that I just don't really buy into his game. I just don't think that he's the guy moving forward. And I think the Cowboys, went about it the wrong way. they moved too quickly without pondering their decision. And, now he's locked in with the Cowboys.
You got any more points to add, Sammy?
Well, I was going to say that, saying that he's unproven is preposterous because you see him in the postseason. He's thrown for 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in his career, and he's only been in 3 playoff games. Only one, he's in none of his playoff starts has he thrown more interceptions than touchdowns. His first one that he lost against the Packers, he threw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. That's not his fault that they lost, all right? That's Aaron Rodgers' fluky throw, and they won. They flat out beat him. And then we go to throughout the regular season. Last year, the Cowboys didn't have him starting, and we saw how good the Cowboys were last year. Okay, the year before, the 3 years before, 4 years before, they were 40-24 as a team, and with the team around Dak Prescott that is deteriorating. The team's falling apart around him. Really, who's better on the Cowboys right now than Dak Prescott? Who would you choose? Really?
Well, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I can't really think of any other person on the team that I could, because Ezekiel Elliott, it seems like he's, declined. He's been missing in action. I don't know what happened to him. So, I mean, maybe Dak Prescott has performed at such a high level, but I don't know. It's just something about him that I just don't think he's that guy for them. I just don't see it.
Well, let me say this. The thing that I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He's not,
he's
Mahomes.
Not,
he's not Mahomes. He's not Deshaun Watson.
Right.
But my issue with this contract is not of Dak's play. It happens to be because of Dallas. Their team around Dak Prescott was already like Sammy said, it was deteriorating. It was really bad. The defense was awful last season. Now you have Dak locked into this loaded, massive contract. Then what are you going to do to fix that defense? What are you going to do to fix that secondary? What are you going to do to fix that offensive line, which is not what it once was when it was one of the best offensive lines in the game? I just think that this deal really handcuffs Dallas's abilities to do anything to improve the team around Dak Prescott. That's why, for me, I don't really like this deal. But going into our comment section, we had a lot of comments that flooded in. My guy, Shardo Gupta, says, "Hi, Isaiah. What's going on, Shardo? Thanks so much for tuning in to our show tonight." Also, Corey Goodrich. "What's up, everyone from Minnesota? Awesome people." What's going on, Corey? Hope you're doing well in Minnesota, my man, and hope you enjoy the show. Also, Corey says, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback, but he does need to stay healthy. He brings up a valid point because a lot of people I don't think are talking about this enough, which is Dak Prescott. How is he going to be coming off that catastrophic ankle injury? That's the one thing that I also have a question with when it comes to this contract, is how he's going to be coming off that injury. Also, Corey says, I have a stuttering problem as well. David Royce comes in to roast me. "Is this dude wearing a Nick Mullins jersey?" Yes, I am, David. And I'm only doing this because we're having our NFL free agency special tonight. So just rocking some Niner gear on the show. Corey says he's not worth that kind of money. And also Shardo Gupta says this is such a crazy move that the Cowboys would re-sign Dak Prescott, and that's a lot of money to give a quarterback in NFL history. Christy Wilson, our resident Cowboys fan, chimes in. "I'm happy about Dak getting his contract. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are not happy about it." Christy also says that now the pressure's on Dak to prove that he's worth every dime of this new contract. 100% agree with you on that, Christy. There's no more excuses for Dak Prescott in Dallas. There is no more excuses for him now that he got paid. And also, Christy says Dak can have his contract restructured to help create space under the salary cap. And Chardot says that I don't know why Jerry Jones decided to make this crazy deal, and he thinks this was a big mistake. Christy also says, I think the Cowboys did not want to franchise tag Dak again. this upcoming season. Christy, I think you might be right on that. I think the Cowboys wanted to avoid that franchise tag at all costs. And also, Christy says other teams have done worse than the Cowboys in terms of franchise suicide. And last but not least, Christy also says, I saw the Cowboys play the Bucs in 2016 live, and Dak really impressed me. But ladies and gentlemen, we go now to the portion of the show that I think all of you guys tuned in for, and that is our free agency preview and prediction segment. We have 22 free agents here on our list. It's not the top 22 put up by ESPN or CBS or the NFL. This is our Wild Sports Talk top 22 NFL free agency list. I'm going to pull up the list real quick. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. But we got a lot of great free agents on this list. Sorry about that, folks. Wrong document, but let's try that again. All right, we got it. So this is our Wild Sports Talk 2021 NFL top free agents list. All of these guys, we will go through them one by one, and me, John Mathis, and Sammy Sharp, we will give our predictions as to where these players will land. You guys can, say the destination the player will land, obviously, but also you guys can feel free to give the length of the contract that you believe the player will land. You can do that if you want. But let's start off with Mitchell Trubisky, the Bears quarterback last season, who started the season for the Chicago Bears, and then he got benched in the middle of the season, came back after Nick Foles suffered an injury, and he led the Chicago Bears into the playoffs. Trubisky passed for 2,055 yards with 16 touchdowns and 8 interceptions with a 93.5 quarterback rating. I know my guy Callan McClure is really interested to see who we got or where we think Trubisky will go on this. But fellas, before I give you guys the floor to tell you or tell me who you guys think Trubisky or where you guys think Trubisky will go, I'm going to shock you guys to start off the show. I think Mitchell Trubisky, believe it or not, ends up in San Francisco with the 49ers. And the reason being is because Kyle Shanahan he was very high on Mitchell Trubisky prior to the 2017 NFL draft. They worked him out a couple of times. Shanahan did a private workout with Mitchell Trubisky. And San Francisco, they need to upgrade that quarterback position, and especially the backup quarterback position behind Jimmy Garoppolo. I think if we're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo for one more season, having Mitch Trubisky there as like an insurance policy will be a great thing for the Niners. And honestly, I don't think that Trubisky gets more than a backup quarterback job, because I really think that a lot of teams, not just the Bears, but a lot of teams in the NFL are very low on him. So I don't think anybody's going to offer him the starting quarterback position. I got Trubisky going to San Francisco, but John Mathis, I'm going to go to you next on this. Mitchell Trubisky, my friend, where does he land?
You know what? What if he goes to New England? That would be a landing spot because Bill Belichick's in desperate need of a quarterback, and maybe he can go there and turn his career around. We'll really see who Bill Belichick is if he gets Mitchell Trubisky. If he could turn him into a fairly good quarterback, then we can make the argument that Bill Belichick is probably one of the greatest coaches of all time, right? If he's able to do that. New England is clearly looking for an upgrade, and Trubisky can very, very clearly be under center for them next year. He arguably has an upside, and he's a free agent, and he's an appealing name on the market, even though he has not played well for the Bears, even though he's been inconsistent and hasn't really lived up to the hype in Chicago. But he does have experience playing in cold weather. I think he'll be a great fit in Bill Belichick's system. And I think that's a preferable destination for him. I think that might be a place that he ends up this offseason. We'll just have to wait and see.
So I got Trubisky going to the Niners. John has Trubisky going to the Patriots. And, that makes a lot of sense, actually, because the Patriots, like John mentioned, they do need an upgrade at the quarterback position. Cam Newton was awful last season for the New England Patriots. They need an upgrade. Trubisky, he played well down the stretch for the Bears. And, Trubisky, I think, would get I don't think he would get that much money or demand that much money on his next contract because he hasn't had that good of a career to be able to demand that much money. So it does make sense. But Sammy Sharp, how about you, my man? Mitchell Trubisky, where do you think he lands up or he ends up?
I think he goes the mile high, and I think they're going to sign him with the intention to back up Drew Lock at the beginning of the season. I think Drew Lock will start up the season as the starter. But if Drew Lock was to have a cold stretch, I think that's whenever they would have Mitchell Trubisky come in and potentially take over as the franchise quarterback because he's only 26 years old. This dude was a very highly touted draft pick. Everyone loved him going into the draft. I think that him going into a situation where he could be a backup with the potential to move up as a starter, I think that's perfect for Mitchell Trubisky. I was going to say, maybe a Washington – or New England, but from what I've read, New England, they have not done a very good job at getting free agents last year, and Washington seems to be really eyed in on Mac Jones as their starting quarterback next year, which is weird, but I don't know. That's what I'm reading though.
So Sammy Sharp has Trubisky going to the Mile High City and joining the Denver Broncos in free agency. I got Trubisky going to the Niners, and John Mathis has Trubisky going to the New England Patriots. But feel free, guys, to comment down below. We'll read your comment on the air. Tell us, where do you guys think Mitchell Trubisky ends up in free agency? Casey King tunes into our show tonight. Good evening, guys. What's going on, Casey? Thank you so much for tuning in. James Gonzalez. Hello, everyone. Good to hear you all. What's going on, James? Hope you are having a great Monday, and thanks for tuning into our show for tonight. And also, Shardul Gupta asked, should the Niners sign Mitchell Trubisky as a backup? Yes, but not as a starter. No way that Mitchell Trubisky is an upgrade over Jimmy G as the starting quarterback. And James says, hopefully Trubisky can go somewhere and thrive. I totally agree with you on that, James. And let's see. Casey King, his prediction, he thinks Mitchell Trubisky goes to the New England Patriots just like John Mathis. And Casey King says, Isaiah, you're going to get Mitchell Trubisky jersey if he ends up a Niner. Probably not, Casey. Probably not. If he's a backup, because I do have a backup quarterback's jersey, but Mitchell Trubisky jersey, not a favorite of mine. But going into our second free agent on the list, and that is Juju Smith-Schuster, who's had a highly productive career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju Smith-Schuster is only 24 years of age. Last season, he had 97 receptions, 831 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to start with you, Sammy Sharp, since you are our resident Steeler fan here on this panel. But where do you think Juju Smith-Schuster ends up in free agency?
I think he's going to go where the lights and cameras are. He's going to go where the money is. He's going to go to New York as a Jet. I think that they are going to surround the offense around him and going to give him a young, nice young quarterback with what's his face, the BYU quarterback, Zach Wilson. They're going to give Zach Wilson, and they're going to give Juju one of his top targets. And it'll be a nice young combo to see those two, because they're both very young players. And I think that's what the Jets are going to build their offense around, really. And they might grab a running back, Leonard Fournette type player, but I think that's really what they're targeting for, is for Zach Wilson to air out to Juju. Down.
Yeah, that would be a deadly combination between Zach Wilson and Juju Smith-Schuster. So Sammy Sharp got Juju going to the New York Jets. How about you, John Mathis? Juju Smith-Schuster, where do you believe that he ends up?
Well, Juju is coming off a highly productive season. Guys, have you guys considered the LA Chargers? They need an offense around Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is quickly emerging into a top quarterback in this league. He was the rookie of the year, and he is only getting better, and he quickly proved he's capable of putting, stats up on the board. He's been amazing. Now he needs the weapons around him. And I think Juju fits the script there. I think this will be a great landing spot for him. And truthfully, I feel like he's the best option for them next season. He'll come in and make an immediate impact in that receiving corp. And I think the Chargers, they want to make a splash, they go after someone like Juju. It's time for them to stack up their weapons and, build for the future and build around Justin Herbert, because they have a unique quarterback. They have a guy who, has really come in and he's made an immediate impact. He's caught on. It's amazing how fast he learned the playbook, how fast he adjusted to the pro game, and look what he's done. I think Juju brings that veteran experience to a young team while he's only 24 years of age, and the Chargers can, add a reliable wideout who can make plays down the field and make Herbert that much more better. I just think that he fits well with the Chargers, and he might even put more butts in the seats. You guys realize that he is a USC product. He played here in Los Angeles, and I think that could help get butts in the seats, for the Chargers. So I really like him coming back to LA and possibly joining the San Diego Chargers. Well, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, John, I think that makes a lot of sense as well because, like Sammy, I think brought up on last Wednesday's WST show, Juju wants to go to a place where he can build his brand. And there's nothing like Los Angeles to build your brand in. So that makes a lot of sense. Plus, he's from LA, played at USC, so it would be like a homecoming for him. So I think that Juju could definitely make a lot of sense there. But for me, fellas, I'm going to stick with my prediction when we talked about this last week, and I'm going to say that I think Juju Smith-Schuster lands with Jacksonville. And the reason why is because I know Jacksonville's not the sexiest destination out there on the planet, but still, it's Florida. Jaguars have the most cap space, and they have Trevor Lawrence, who they need to build an offense around, and give him weapons to throw the football to. So, and plus, Urban Meyer, first-year head coach, wants to get off to a quick start. So I think Juju would definitely help Urban, will definitely help Trevor Lawrence as well, make Trevor Lawrence look really good out there on the football field. And, like I said, Jaguars have a lot of cap space, so they can just give Juju, a ton of money and get him to come to Jacksonville. So I got Juju going to the Jaguars. John Mathis has Juju going to the Chargers, and Sammy Sharp got him going to the Jets. But going into our comment section, Casey King says, Juju, I see him going to the Jets or the Raiders. Both places make a ton of sense for Juju Smith-Schuster. Chardot says, I think Juju Smith-Schuster will end up in Baltimore, where he and Lamar Jackson will be a very strong duo and they will be unstoppable. I like the thought, Chardot, but I don't believe the Ravens have the money to be able to afford Juju Smith-Schuster. John, Sammy, if I'm wrong, you guys can feel free to correct me on that, but I don't believe they have the cap space to be able to sign Juju.
I think it'd be I think Juju would break the barrier of being the first Steeler Raven player in history. So I don't think Juju would want to do that, especially with the history Baltimore and Pittsburgh have hating each other.
Yeah, totally agree. And also, James Gonzalez says a lot of talk is that Juju should go to Las Vegas. Personally, I'd be shocked if that does happen. I mean, Vegas does make sense because, like we've been saying, Juju wants to grow his brand, and what other place than Vegas to grow your brand? Also, Casey King to John's saying the San Diego Chargers. John, you mean the LA Renters. LOL. But moving into our next free agent, fellas, our third free agent, and that is Trent Williams, the offensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. You know, Trent Williams is one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, and he's going to get paid big time on the free agent market. I'm going to start with this. You know, I think that it's a no-brainer. I'm going to say that Trent Williams stays with the 49ers. He played for Kyle Shanahan both in Washington and now with the San Francisco 49ers. He loves Kyle Shanahan's offense. He fits very well in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Plus, the 49ers have over $28 million in salary cap space, so they have the resources to be able to retain Trent Williams. And if you lose a left tackle with how Jimmy Garoppolo how fragile he's been over the last couple of years, you need a good offensive line to be able to, or great offensive line to be able to keep Jimmy Garoppolo upright. And if you lose Trent Williams, it's going to be a huge blow, not just for Jimmy, but that offensive line, which is just mediocre already with Trent Williams on the team. So you cannot afford to lose Trent Williams if you want to continue to win next season. But Sammy Sharp, I'll go to you next on this. Where do you think Trent Williams ends up in free agency?
I know it's going to hurt your heart, Isaiah, to hear it. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's my prediction. I think he's going to go to Jacksonville. And I think one of the reasons why he's going to Jacksonville is because any smart head coach, and I know Urban Meyer's a pretty smart head coach. He has a couple national championships to prove that. He knows offensive line is going to protect your quarterback. That's the number one thing you got to do. And in a league like this, with all kinds of pass rushers, you got in $100-something million of cap space, you got to go out and get yourself an offensive lineman that would be very steady with a young quarterback like Trevor Lawrence.
Sammy, that does hurt my heart, but I understand the move because, Jacksonville cap space, they need to protect their franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. So it makes a lot of sense. But John Mathis, going to you on this, Trent Williams, the left tackle for the 49ers, where do you think he ends up in free agency?
Well, I think that he will return to the 49ers. I think that's the most likely scenario for Williams. I think he's made it real clear that he wants to stay with the 49ers. And like you said, the 49ers have the resources to bring him back, to retain him. And, Williams was one of the best left tackles in the game last season. And he would play a large role in protecting whoever it may be playing quarterback next year for the 49ers. So I think, if I had to choose, he will return. But what's interesting to me? Another team that could be a potential landing spot, and I think he stays with the Niners, but I also want to talk about this. Another great place for him would be the Indianapolis Colts. They just lost their star left tackle, and Anthony, help me with his last name. You guys know.
Costanzo. Thank
you. See, I always mess up on these guys' last name. But he recently retired, so they need a left tackle to fill that void. And Trent Williams can do that. The Colts have the fourth most cap space in the NFL, so they definitely could afford to pay Williams and bring him in if they have to. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have nice little cap space as well to bring in Williams as well. But I do think that he stays with the 49ers, and I think the 49ers will get a deal done for him very soon.
Yeah, I think Indy makes a lot of sense as well, John. Like you mentioned, they have the resources to get him. They need a left tackle now that their left tackle retired, and also Trent Williams going there. He's 32 years of age. He wants to go to the next destination. He wants to go to. He wants to go to a place that's primed to be able to win now. So that's why, like for Jacksonville, I mean, I like the thought, Sammy, but I don't know if Trent Williams at his age will be willing to go to a rebuild in Jacksonville. And also the Bengals was another team that I thought of, but because they need to protect Joe Burrow, after all the sacks that Joe Burrow took this past season. But I just don't know if Trent Williams, given his age, he will be willing to go to a rebuild. But for me, it's the 49ers. For John Mathis, it's the 49ers, and also Sammy Sharp. He's got Trent Williams going to the Jacksonville Jaguars and teaming up with Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence. But fellas, moving into our fourth free agent, and that is Chris Carson, the running back for the Seattle Seahawks. Chris Carson, last season, he was productive when he was on the field, but that's the biggest issue with him is that he's always hurt. But John Mathis, I'll start with you on this. Where do you think Chris Carson goes?
Yeah, Chris Carson has a hard time staying healthy. Um, but when he's healthy, he can be an efficient running back. He's done a tremendous job when he's on the field as both a runner and a receiver. He has the abilities to, do both. But I think the Jets are in play for him. But I'm gonna go with the Falcons. I think the Falcons can use his skill set as a running back. Todd Gurley wasn't the answer, and I definitely think the new head coach there, Arthur Smith, love to have him in his offense. They have the resources to make it happen. Though their salary cap issues make signing a veteran running back difficult, but I think they could, probably get him on a short-term deal or something like that. But Carson definitely would have a huge workload, with the Falcons, but he can definitely help improve their running game.
Sammy, before I go to you, for me, I'm going to go with, I think Chris Carson lands with the Miami Dolphins. Brian Flores and the Dolphins, they haven't been shy about wanting to get a running back number one. And Chris Carson, like we said, when he's able to stay healthy and stay on the field, the guy is a monster on the football field. But once again, it's his health. That's the main issue for him. And like John Mathis mentioned, I think he gets a short-term contract because teams are wary about his health issues, and the Dolphins, they have the salary cap space to be able to make that happen, and they need a running back as well. So I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. John Mathis goes with the Atlanta Falcons. And Sammy, where do you think Chris Carson plays in 2021?
I think he's teaming up with Juju in New York. I think that'd be a very interesting duo. And I think one thing that what's tricky about these running back situations is especially injury-prone running back situation. You can't go to a very functional franchise because no functional franchise is going to give a running back like Chris Carson that gets hurt frequently a decent amount of cash. A desperate franchise like the New York Jets will not only probably give him a lot more than he's asking for, but they are not going to feed him to the wolves or make him 100% of what's it called, the all three down back. I think that they would also draft maybe a running back in the second, third, fourth round to complement Chris Carson and to take the workload off of him to salvage him throughout the year, make him more durable. I think that would be the strategy to work with Chris Carson.
Excellent points. Going into our comment section, we have, we got James Gonzalez saying, I think Trent Williams goes to Indianapolis. Casey King, He thinks that Trent Williams stays in San Francisco as well, maybe goes to Indy. I completely agree with you, James. I think that San Francisco and Indianapolis are the two prime contenders for Trent Williams' services. Chardot says, I think Trent Williams will land in Indianapolis or Miami. And for Chris Carson, James Gonzalez has him staying in Seattle, and Casey King has him going to the New York Jets. And yeah, that's all of our comments for right now. But moving into our fifth free agent of the night, we've got wide receiver Kenny Golladay, the now former Lions wide receiver who had a big year last season for the Detroit Lions. Kenny Golladay, or the year before last season, my apologies, he had 65 catches, 1,190 yards, and 11 touchdowns last season. I think he had a bit of injury issues that limited him to 20 catches, 338 yards, and just 2 touchdowns. But when the guy is able to stay healthy, he can ball on the football field. For me, fellas, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Chargers for Kenny Golladay. You know, like John Mathis mentioned earlier, they need to give Justin Herbert weapons. Besides Keenan Allen, they have him on the roster right now. And if you add Kenny Golladay, that's going to be a great 1-2 punch between Allen and Kenny Golladay. And the Chargers, they do have the cap space to make it happen. So I think they are able to make it happen. I'm going to go with the LA Chargers for Kenny Golladay. But John Mathis, what about you? Where do you think Kenny Golladay plays in 2021?
You know, he has shown that he can be a top receiving option wherever he goes. And one of my potential landing spots for him is the Baltimore Ravens. I like him there. I think he's a great fit there. For a team as good and as competitive as the Ravens are, they don't really have a real passing game. They need another option in their passing game. And I think Kenny fits the script for them. He'll be an amazing asset for them. You know, they lack real size in the red zone outside of their tight end, Mark Andrews. So I think he will, bring some depth to their receiving corps, and I think he will make a tremendous impact. The guy looks scary. He has, the athletic skills and the ability to be a star receiver in this league. And I think the Ravens will, make a run for him.
Makes a lot of sense, John, because the Ravens definitely need to improve their passing game and need to improve their wide receiving corps for Lamar Jackson. But Sammy Sharp, where do you think Kenny Golladay ends up in free agency?
I'd like to see him be a Patriot. I think it'd be a really interesting fit for him, seeming how he would I think he would keep his position as the premier receiver, and he would probably be the best receiver that the Patriots have had since Tom Brady was there. And I think it'd be a good fit for Kenny Golladay in his current situation.
So I got Kenny Golladay going to the Chargers. John Mathis has Kenny Golladay going to the Ravens, and Sammy Sharp has Kenny Golladay going to the New England Patriots. As far as our fans are concerned, James Gonzalez, he says Golladay to the Ravens, and Casey King says he thinks Kenny Golladay is going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers to replace Juju Smith-Schuster. But going into our sixth free agent of the night, and that is defensive end Shaq Barrett, who had a monstrous performance in the Super Bowl to help the Buccaneers lift that second Lombardi trophy and defeat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And he had an outstanding year last season, as well as an outstanding season in 2019, where he had 19 and a half sacks and an interception for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fellas, for me, I'm going to go with the Jaguars for Shaq Barrett, because the Jaguars, they need to improve that defense. That defense, was one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They have one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. They need to get after the quarterback. If Urban Meyer wants to have success in the NFL, they got lots of cap space, so they can pay Shaq Barrett, that $25, $27 million per year that Shaq Barrett is looking for in free agency. So I'm going to go with the Jaguars for Shaq Barrett. But John Mathis, where do you think Shaq Barrett where do you think Shaq Barrett ends up in free agency?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars need some help on that defense. They definitely have enough cap space to pay him what he's worth, and I think because of their pass rush is not that good, they will make a run for him. They will pursue him in free agency, and I think by the time it's all said and done, he will be part of that Jacksonville's defense. I just like him there as well.
So John agrees with me, and he's going to go with Shaq Barrett to the Jaguars. How about you, Sammy? Where do you think that Shaq Barrett lands in free agency?
Well, I think he's going to the AFC South, but I don't think he'll be a Jaguar. I think he's going to go sign with the Texans. I think the Texans are going to try to replace J.J. Watt and try to, get some of those season ticket holders back into the stands and post up a somewhat competitive team this year.
That's a very interesting place, given the fact that they do need help with rushing the quarterback now that J.J. Watt is gone. And also, they do have the money, but I don't know if, Shaq Barrett just won a Super Bowl, so he might want to just chase the money at this point. So he could go to the Houston Texans. But going into our comments from our fans, James Gonzalez has Shaq Barrett staying in Tampa Bay, and Casey King, he's got Shaq Barrett staying in Tampa Bay as well. I could see that happening too, because Shaq Barrett is just very vital to that Tampa Bay defense. Him and Jason Pierre-Paul are a fearsome duo on that defensive line. So Tampa Bay, they definitely need to do all they can to retain Shaq Barrett. But we go from one Buccaneer to the other big Buccaneer free agent here on our free agency preview special, and that is Lavonte David, the linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. John Mathis, I'll start with you on this. Where do you think Lavonte David ends up in free agency?
I like Lavonte David in Charlotte. Imagine him in a Panthers uniform. They're still feeling the absence of the now retired veteran Luke. I always mess up with his last name as well. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. They need a dynamic complement to play. Next to the linebacker Shaq Thompson. So I think he's a good fit there. I think he would help with that defense because they definitely need it. I like him to go to the Carolina Panthers.
So John has Lavonte David going from one NFC South team to the other NFC South team and going to the Carolina Panthers. For me, I'm going to go with, I think Lavonte David stays with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because right now I know the Buccaneers, their cap space is only $11 million, but they got to do all they can to retain him if they want to win a Super Bowl next season. You talk about this guy being the heart and soul of that Tampa Bay defense. I mean, him and Devin White make up the fearsome duo at linebacker that they have there in Tampa Bay, and they were really vital to Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl this past season. So for me, I'm going to go with Lavonte David sticking with Tampa Bay. He's just too important to that team for them to let him go. But Sammy Sharp, how about you? Where do you think Lavonte David ends up in free agency?
Well, the reason why I have Shaq Barrett not staying in Tampa Bay is because I think that Tampa Bay is going to go all in and throw the sink at Lavonte David to try to keep him in Tampa Bay. You cannot lose, basically the second defensive coordinator or the coach on the field type player like Lavonte David and then expect to, be almost the same. I think that they could afford to lose Shaq Barrett. They would not be the same team. They won't be as good as they were. But Lavonte David is one of those pieces that, it's a lot harder to replace than a Shaq Barrett would be.
Yeah, excellent point, Sammy. Going into our fans, we have James Gonzalez saying Lavonte David stays in Tampa Bay unless he can get the money in Cleveland. And also Casey King says Lavonte David is staying in Tampa Bay as well. But moving into our eighth free agent for tonight, we've got Mike Hinton, the Steelers cornerback who is now slated to hit free agency. Sammy, I'm going to start with you first on this because you're a resident Steeler fan. Where do you think Mike Hinton ends up in free agency?
It's hard. It's going to be hard to see Mike Hilton leave because he was a very good slot corner for us. Him and Cameron Sutton both, on their way out. But I have Mike Hilton going to the Texans. I think that the Texans they have a lot to replace on their defense. They have a lot of cap space as well. So it would be I hope that they are able to the Texans are able to rebuild their defense, revamp it, and become competitive this year. I'd love to see that.
All right, so Sammy has Hilton leaving his Steelers and going to the Houston Texans. For me, I'm going to go with Mike Hilton to Denver. I'm going to agree with James Gonzalez on this. Vic Fangio, that regime in Denver, they need to win now. If Vic Fangio gets off to a poor start this upcoming season, I believe that, Vic Fangio is going to be the first coach to be fired to be fired this upcoming season. So they need to win now. And the Broncos, they've got, major question marks at corner. They just released AJ Boye. They released another corner as well. So they have major voids at corner. They need to fill those voids. I'm going to go with Mike Hilton to the Denver Broncos. And also Denver has the cap space to make that happen. But John Mathis, where do you think Mike Hilton ends up? John, I think you're on mute, buddy. John, I think I don't know why it won't let me unmute you for some reason. Well, unfortunately, we're having some technical issues right now on John Mathis's side. We'll try to get that fixed. But moving on to our ninth free agent, and that is Marvin Jones, the wide receiver of the Detroit Lions. Marvin Jones, he has said that he wants to go to a place where he can win. When he was asked about his upcoming free agency, Marvin Jones last season had a productive year, 76 catches, 978 yards, and 9 touchdowns. The year prior, 62 catches, 779 yards, and 9 touchdowns for the Detroit Lions. But Sammy, I'll start with you first on this. Where do you think Marvin Jones goes?
I think he's going to go to Indy. I think he's going to play second fiddle to T.Y. Hilton, who's also on this list. But Indianapolis, for a really good team, they have a lot of cap room. And I think that's going to be one of the receivers that they're going to bring in to be a secondary receiver.
I think that's an excellent landing spot for Marvin Jones. For me, I wouldn't put him with either the teams that right now on the cap, like the top of the cap space chart, like the Jaguars or the Jets or the Bengals, because they're rebuilding and Marvin Jones, he wants to go to a place that he can win. So for me, I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Marvin Jones going to the, I've got him going to the No. I got him going to the Panthers, actually, because, the Panthers, they definitely need to upgrade their wide receiving corps. We don't know what they're going to do at quarterback this season, but they do need to give their new quarterback, some weapons to throw to. So I got Marvin Jones getting the bag and going to the Carolina Panthers. But going to our comment section, James Gonzalez says Marvin Jones wants to go to a contender. Maybe it's Cleveland. Who knows? Casey King says Marvin Jones to my Rams, and he reunites with Matthew Stafford on a short deal. I actually could see that happen, and I believe Marvin Jones has said in the past that he won't mind going to Detroit or going to LA and playing with Matthew Stafford and reuniting with Matthew Stafford on a short-term deal. But moving on to our next free agent, we got Jameis Winston, the New Orleans Saints backup quarterback who is slated to hit free agency again. Sammy, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks this offseason. Where do you think Jameis Winston ends up?
I have high praise for Jameis Winston. I think he's honestly the best quarterback talent-wise on the board that we have here. But I have him going to the Houston Texans to replace Deshaun Watson, okay? I think that I would want to say the Saints, but the Saints are negative 40 million in the cap as we sit here today. So they still have a lot of cleaning out to do. And I think right now the only team that's really looking for a quarterback that desperately needs a quarterback are the Houston Texans.
Hey, that is a very shocking place for him to go, but I totally understand it. But for me, I got him going back to New Orleans. I think that he's gonna take a short-term deal with the Saints. I think the Saints have been grooming him to be Drew Brees' successor. I don't believe that Taysom Hill is like the successor to Drew Brees. I mean, we saw Taysom Hill out there on the football field. He just didn't look good throwing the football. So I'm gonna go with Jameis Winston as the bridge quarterback until the New Orleans Saints can find their next franchise quarterback. I'm going to go with the Saints, and Sammy got him going to the Houston Texans. For our fans, James Gonzalez has Jameis staying in the Big Easy, and Casey's got him going to the Houston Texans. But moving on to our next free agent, we've got James Conner, running back for your Pittsburgh Steelers, Sammy. James Conner, is he going to stay in Pittsburgh, Sammy, or is he going elsewhere in free agency?
He wants too much money. And the only team that's going to be crazy enough to pay former Steelers is a team that has a history of it. And it's the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins are going to try to sign him and make him – I think they'll try to make him their first string quarterback or running back, but I don't think it'll work out there personally.
So Sammy's got him going to the Miami Dolphins. For me, I already have Chris Carson going to the Miami Dolphins. So that crosses off one team that needs a running back. I'm going to go with James Conner going to the New York Jets. You know, the New York Jets, they have the cap space. They need a running back. No matter like who their next quarterback is, I don't think they're going to try to get that quarterback to – put that team on his shoulders and lead them to victory. And Mike LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, the new offensive coordinator, he runs a run-heavy offense with the New York Jets, just like what Kyle Shanahan did with, Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think that's what the Jets are going to try to do, if they do, in fact, retain Sam Darnold. So I got James Conner going to the Jets. They need a running back. They got the money, and I think they will pay him to put the green uniform on James Conner. But moving into our next free agent, we've got Bud Dupree, the linebacker for your Pittsburgh Steelers, another free agent from your Pittsburgh Steelers, Sammy. Is Bud Dupree staying in Pittsburgh, Sammy, or do you think Bud Dupree is gone as well?
I think that a lot of these players want too much money. Dupree is one of them. I'm hoping that the Steelers can do something to make him stay, but I'm a very realistic Steeler fan. I think he's going to another 3. I'm pretty sure that they run a 3-4 defense as well. I think he's going to go stay in that system, and he's going to go to the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to try to revamp and try to be competitive this year. There's no way Bill Belichick's going to go 2 years in a row and be horrible to average. And, I think that he's going to go and try to revamp this defense.
Do you think that Dupree and Dante Hightower will be able to coexist in New England?
I think it would benefit Dupree. Dupree had his best years whenever what's-his-face was there. TJ Watt. When TJ Watt was there the last 2 years, Dupree has had his best 2 years of his career. And I think that will continue to happen as long as, he still has pieces around him that will let him shine.
So Sammy's got Bud Dupree going to the New England Patriots. For me, Sammy, I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, but on a short-term deal. Jacksonville, like we've been talking about, they need to improve that defense. That defense was god-awful last season, and, they do have the money. They can pay Dupree a bloated short-term contract to get him to Jacksonville and be one of the focal points of that defense. So I got him going to the Jaguars to pair up with Shaq Barrett, who also I have going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But going into our comment section, we have a lot of comments that flooded in. James Gonzalez says he's got James Conner going to Seattle to replace Chris Carson. Sammy, how would you feel about James Conner potentially going to the Seahawks?
I think he's a below average running back, not below average. He's an average running back. I don't think he would be fitting at Seattle very well. What Seattle wants to do, which is a power run game. And I don't think he'd fit very well in that. He'd probably get hurt within the first 6 weeks, honestly, because that's what Pittsburgh tried to use him as, and they ended up utilizing more of Benny Snell as that role. So.
Yeah, I don't like the fit as well. I just think that you're basically replacing one injury riddled running back with another in James Conner. So I wouldn't do it. I would roll with either a young guy from the draft or Seattle. They have an abundance of running backs on their football team, so I would roll with one of them instead of signing one to a long-term deal. And also, James Gonzalez says he thinks Bud Dupree stays in Pittsburgh. Casey King has James Conner, my apologies, going to the Miami Dolphins. Chardot has Mike Hilton going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sammy, I don't believe the Buccaneers need corner help.
No, I don't think so either. With especially with the two safeties that they have, I think their DBs are just fine. I think they need DB depth. I think that's what they could do. And drafting a corner or a safety this year. But I don't think grabbing a corner like Mike Hilton, I think he'll go somewhere to where he'll be a starting corner this year. He'll be starting right or left. He was a really good corner for the Steelers. Same thing with Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton might go to the Buccaneers to be a slot corner, honestly.
Yeah, it just wouldn't make any sense for you to throw a lot of money at a guy that's like DB number 3. It just wouldn't make a lot of sense for Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And also, Casey King says he thinks Bud Dupree goes to the New England Patriots just like Sammy. And James Gonzalez has Bud Dupree staying in Pittsburgh. And Chardot has Marvin Jones going to San Francisco. Chardot, I like the thought of that. But the reason why, and I think, it could happen because Marvin Jones wants to go to a winning team and a contending team. But the 49ers just have way too much receivers. You got Brandon Ayuk, you got Debo, you got, River Craycraft, Trent Taylor, all these guys, Kendrick Bourne, who I think they will re-sign. So 49ers, they just have an abundance of receivers, and I just don't think that would make sense. But Sammy, what do you think about Marvin Jones potentially ending up in San Francisco?
I don't know. I would have to. I don't know. He would have to be used as a slot receiver, and I don't think that's what the 49ers need as of right now, especially what they're going through in free agency and possibly losing this year. So I think that they would have to reconsider signing a player like Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I think Marvin Jones, he's not. Well, the 49ers already have Trent Taylor as their slot receiver, so he would be the backup at that spot. So I just don't think he would settle for that. And I think that's all the comments we've got as of right now. But moving into our 13th free agent as we keep chugging along. We got Richard Sherman, the cornerback for the San Francisco 49ers. Richard Sherman has already made it loud and clear that him and the 49ers, they're parting ways. He's not going to be back with San Francisco because of the 49ers, salary cap issues and them needing to re-sign all the 50 free agents that they've got on the team. But Sammy, who do you or where do you think Richard Sherman is playing in 2021?
I think he's going to go to where all old defensive players go whenever they hit free agency, and that is going to be Washington. I think he's going to join Albert Haynesworth and Josh Norman in that graveyard they call a football team. And I think he's going to get paid there. I think he'll get his money there. But, he's not going to be on a good team.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I could see it. Like, I could see him because Washington, they definitely need corner help. Plus, they got the cap space. But for me, I'm going to go with the Raiders. John Gruden and Richard Sherman did an interview. I believe it was a month ago, and John Gruden expressed interest in Richard Sherman. Sherman also expressed interest in going to the Raiders. The Raiders have a major need at corner. They don't have the salary cap space to get a player or to pay Richard Sherman. I don't what he wants. But if they do some maneuvering with the cap, they might just be able to fit that contract in. And they just need to improve that defense. The Raiders, they have a great offense with Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, and Henry Ruggs and those guys. But it's that defense that is always killing the Raiders and preventing the Raiders from making the playoffs. And John Gruden, he needs to make the playoffs in his third year. He really has to. Or this upcoming season, because if he misses the playoffs, I think there will be talks of John Gruden potentially being on the hot seat there in Las Vegas because, Mark Davis, he's not a patient owner. He really isn't. So I think John Gruden realizes he needs to win now, and the Raiders go out and go grab Richard Sherman. But going into our comment section, James Gonzalez has Sherman going to the Raiders as well. Casey also has Sherman going to the Raiders. And my guy Chardot says Jameis Winston, the potential landing spot for Jameis, for him is the Raiders. Sammy, I really don't know how that would make sense because unless Jameis is willing to settle for a backup role, which I highly doubt he will, given the fact that the Texans, the Saints, and all these other teams have starting quarterbacks. So I don't know how that would work out. But what do you think?
Well, I think if something happened like last year where teams like the Bears were passing up Jameis Winston for quarterbacks that were not like Nick Foles, who I think was hurt the year before. So unless something crazy like that happens, and then with the Saints not being minus 40 in cap, if for some reason they're not able to resign him, I could see something like that. But I think that is that's like a doomsday scenario. And I think last resort for Jameis Winston, especially being behind a quarterback like Derek Carr, I don't think that the Raiders are planning on moving off of anytime soon.
Yeah, plus they also have Marcus Mariota, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And they also signed Nathan Peterman. So the Raiders are, well stacked there at the quarterback position. Chardot also says that his landing spot for James Conner is the Miami Dolphins, which makes a lot of sense. And moving on to our next free agent, we've got Kenyon Drake of the Arizona Cardinals. Kenyon Drake revived his career in Arizona under Cliff Kingsbury. He's been fantastic. In 2019, he had 123 carries, 643 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. And then in 2020, he followed that up with 239 carries for 955 yards and 10 touchdowns for the Arizona Cardinals. Sammy, we've talked about teams, like a lot of teams needing running backs. We've talked about Chris Carson and, James Conner. But where do you think Kenyon Drake ends up in free agency?
I think he's going to go for a discount, kind of a discount, not too much of a discount, but he's going to go to Indianapolis, I think. And I think one of the reasons why is because Indianapolis, where they are, they're in a very unique situation. They're in a situation where they're a very good team and they have a lot of cap space to go with it. Not a lot of teams in history have this luxury, and Indianapolis does. And I think Kenyon Drake will also be bought in. Yeah, you don't take this 18, 17 million. You come over here for 10 million, and we can build around you even more, and we can give you a shot at a possible Super Bowl. I think all that Indianapolis really needs is a quarterback, and it's Carson. They have Carson Wentz. We'll see how he pans out. But if he pans out well, this is a Super Bowl contending team in the AFC.
Yeah, I could see, that also happening. Kenyon Drake, at his age, he wants to go to a team that can contend right now. And the Colts, they have the cap space to be able to put a lot of pieces around Carson Wentz. But my only issue with that, Sammy, is the Colts already have, Marlon Mack's a free agent, but they already have Jonathan Taylor, who they drafted. So I don't know if Kenyon Drake, after being a starter for a couple of years in Arizona, want to go there and be a backup?
I think they'd be a good I mean, you have to pitch the idea of a Thunder and Lightning type of duo. I don't think Jonathan Taylor is at the point of his career yet where he could be taking, becoming the 3 down back or 4 down back. I think, Kenyon Drake would be a very elusive receiving back and a very elusive speed back. I think that's really what he is. He's 27 years old. This dude has also never been in a team where, I mean, he was in the Cardinals last year, I guess, that was very good, but this would be his best team probably as a professional player. And I think that he would really appreciate, I think he would really appreciate it. I don't know if he really would or not, but I think he would appreciate being on a playoff contending team.
For me, Sammy, I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos because I know the Broncos right now, they've got Phillip Lindsay, they've got Melvin Gordon, but there's been a lot of talk that the Broncos are going to move off of Melvin Gordon's contract given their cap issues and, with no revenue being occurred from the coronavirus pandemic and fans not being in the stands. The Broncos, they need to shed a lot of salary. So I think they're going to move off of Melvin Gordon, and I think they're going to go get Kenyon Drake because I think Kenyon Drake would cost a little bit less than Melvin Gordon would. And also the Broncos, you have Drew Lock, but Drew Lock has proven to be more of a game manager than being that explosive quarterback that can win you games with his arm. So the Broncos, they need to trust that run game. Drake plus Phillip Lindsay would be kind of like a thunder and lightning combo of a backfield. So I'm going to go with Denver. And also Vic Fangio, he needs to win as well to save his job. So I got Drake going to the Mile High City. But to our fans, we've got Edward Lee saying Drake would be signed by the LA Chargers. And Casey says Drake will go to Seattle. But moving on to our next free agent, and that is a polarizing one, and it's Cam Newton, the quarterback of the New England Patriots, who struggled last season for the New England Patriots. Sammy, I'll go to you first on this. What uniform do you believe that Cam Newton suits up in 2021?
To my surprise, there's a lot of people that agree with me on this one in the media, and I don't think he's changing uniform. I don't think that the Patriots are able to right now find the correct pieces for any quarterback. And I think that they are extremely desperate for a quarterback to the point of where Cam Newton right now is the safe option to them. And I don't know why that they would try to resign him, especially about how horrible last season went. But that seems like the route that they want to go. I know that they were inquiring about almost every team about their quarterback, with Deshaun Watson, with Jimmy Garoppolo, and et cetera, et cetera. But, it seems like that Cam Newton is the way they're leading. And I think they're going to try to draft. I guess they're going to try to draft the quarterback as well. But I don't see that working out very well for them.
Sammy, I got a big surprise for you. You ready for this?
Shoot.
Jacksonville as a backup with Urban Meyer because, Cam did play for Urban Meyer back when he was in college, I believe, when they had Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, and I'm forgetting the other guy that was in that quarterback room, but they had a loaded quarterback room, and they want a insurance behind Trevor Lawrence. They want a veteran behind Trevor Lawrence as the backup that knows the NFL. Cam Newton has been to a Super Bowl, and he can, mentor Trevor Lawrence and help him get through his first year in the NFL. So I got Cam Newton, my apologies, Cam Newton going down to Jacksonville, going back to Florida, and reuniting with Urban Meyer on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Sammy, what do you think about that idea?
I don't think Cam Newton wants to back up a rookie quarterback. Based off his interview he had with The Athletic, he feels like he's better than a lot of quarterbacks, and he needs to another year to prove it. I think he will go to a quarterback.
Sammy, unfortunately, with Cam's terrible year that he had with the New England Patriots, some of it being not his fault because the Patriots didn't have any weapons whatsoever, but given the fact that he had a terrible year, I just don't believe a lot of teams are going to be interested in his services. You've been seeing it all over the place that Cam is done, Cam is, he can't throw the football anymore. He just looked really bad out there on the football field. So I think that he's going to be only getting offers to be backup quarterbacks in this league. That's why I don't like maybe Washington. I could see it being an option. Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera and Cam. They have a pre-existing relationship dating back to their days with the Carolina Panthers. But other than that, and returning to New England, I just really don't see Cam Newton getting a quarter or an offer to be a starting quarterback in the NFL after his poor year last year.
I know. I see where you're coming from, but I also see Cam Newton. He has an ego with him. He wants to be a starting quarterback next year, and I don't think he's gonna let his agent, if he has a say in it, he's gonna let his agent sign somewhere where he's gonna go in being a quarterback, especially to a rookie. I think he's gonna definitely feel down about that.
But going to see what our fans have to say, James Gonzalez has Cam Newton going to the Washington football team and reuniting with Ron Rivera. Austin Morrison, thank you for tuning in to tonight's show, my man. He's got Cam Newton staying in New England. Casey King also has Cam Newton staying in New England. Edward Lee as well. He's got Cam Newton re-signing with the New England Patriots. And Austin Morrison has a correction for me. Trey Burton was the other quarterback at Florida with Tebow and Newton, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it was Trey Burton as well. But it was Trey Burton, Tebow, and Cam Newton. I mean, that was such a loaded quarterback room. And Chardot says for Richard Sherman would be to go back to Seattle and team up with Russell Wilson, who they had a very strong duo on the field. Sammy, I like where Chardot is coming from with this thought of Sherman going back to Seattle because the Seahawks, they need quarterback help, but I just don't think the Seahawks will be able to afford Richard Sherman at the price that he wants. Plus, I think there were some bad feelings that still exist from Sherman and the Seahawks parting ways 3 years ago.
Yeah, if I do recall, it was an ugly breakup between Richard Sherman and Pete Carroll.
Yeah, most definitely. But moving on to our next free agent, it is Leonard Floyd of the LA Rams. And Sammy, I think this one might shock you as well. I got him going to Denver. I got him going to Denver to reunite with Vic Fangio. He has, a lot of familiarity playing in Vic Fangio's scheme from his days with the Chicago Bears. Denver, they need defensive line help. They could potentially lose Von Miller in free agency. They also I believe, released Jarrell Casey a couple of weeks ago. So Denver needs to beef up their defensive line besides Bradley Chubb. So I think Leonard Floyd makes a lot of sense for Denver. But what about you, Sammy? Where do you think Leonard Floyd goes in free agency this year?
I have him going to Jacksonville, going down south to Florida. I know I've had the Jaguars pass up on Shaq Barrett and Bud Dupree, but I think this is where they're going to get their pass rusher at, and they're going to try to be young this year. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to try to be young. They're going to be returning one. I forget who. It's going to be a really solid corner. I forget what his name is, but they are going to be trying to build around their young core on defense and try to create a young core on defense.
I could see that also happening because for me, I think Shaq Barrett, he's young. He wants the money. So that's why I had Shaq Barrett going to Jacksonville. But I could also see that if they miss out on Shaq Barrett, if they don't want to, give him 25 to 27 million and severely hamstrung their team. So I could see that definitely happening. He's a cheaper option. I believe he's going to be either the second best or third best defensive end on the market. So I definitely could see that happening. Austin Morrison has a question for us. Do you guys think any free agent signed with the Bengals? I'm a Bengals fan and was wondering if you guys had any thoughts on building around Joe Burrow. Sammy, if I'm not mistaken, I think I did have a free agent going to – No, I didn't have a free agent going to the Bengals thus far. But what about you? Do you think the Bengals get any of these big-name free agents this offseason? Sammy, I think you're muted, man.
See, I'm a Steelers fan. My Steelers, they don't, go after big name free agents. It's tradition here, but I don't think the Bengals are going to be. They're not traditionally a big time spenders in free agency, unless they absolutely have to. And I don't think they're going to be signing any of these as far as these offensive linemen go. I think what they're going to do is they're going to sign a unproven. I think they're going to, play it safe, sign unproven offensive linemen. You're going to try to sign players that they think that they could develop into, full-time starters. The Bengals are a very good team at developing wide receivers too. It's not a very easy thing to do. Nick Martin is also a free agent this year. I think that he could be a target that the Bengals go for, especially how good he is. Alejandro Villanueva. I think that's a really good target for the Bengals, especially for what they want to do. Probably going to bring back, BJ Finney. Filer is also a free agency. You have a lot of offensive linemen free. I think that they would be signing offensive linemen mostly, and I think in the draft they're going to be trying to grab the pass rusher with their first pick, and I think they're going to try to establish a game around Joe Burrow. That's what they need to do is develop the offense around him, and I think the Bengals are right now in a great spot with having to find their future franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow. Not a lot of teams do that, especially 1 year after losing, not even a year after losing their past franchise quarterback, Andy Dalton. So, I think that they're in a good spot. They probably not going, like I said, they're probably not going to go big time spending this offseason, but they're going to be spending enough to where they're building the offense around Joe Burrow, getting a whole bunch of pieces.
Sammy, I think, well, for me, I'm going to go with, I think the Bengals, when you look at the available offensive linemen on the market, Trent Williams, I have him going back to San Francisco. Brandon Scherf, he's already being franchise tagged by the Washington football team. Taylor Moton from the Panthers, I think he's going to get franchise tagged as well. So you got guys like Joe Thuney from the Patriots left, Corey Linsley, Russell Okung, Alejandro Villanueva, who you mentioned earlier, he's available. Darrell Williams, David Andrews, Kelvin Beachum, Alex Mack, and Austin Ryder. I could see the Bengals getting maybe a couple of these free agents. Alejandro Villanueva could be one. Joe Thuney could be another guy. But, you don't really want to go with Patriots offensive linemen because they struggle away from New England. And also Corey Linsley could be another guy I could see the Bengals going after. And also I think for me, when we look at the draft, I think the Bengals will get Penei Sewell from Oregon to help beef up their offensive line and protect Joe Burrow. And as about their pass rush, watch out for Carlos Dunlap, the former Cincinnati Bengal, who the Bengals traded to Seattle, who just got released earlier today by the Seattle Seahawks because of cap issues. I think a reunion between Dunlap and the Bengals could be in store, so watch out for that. But Casey King, he's got Leonard Floyd going to Denver to reunite with Vic Fangio in Denver. Shardul Gupta, the potential landing spot for Kenyon Drake would be the Detroit Lions. Sammy, I like where Shardul's coming from again, but the Detroit Lions, I think they just have too much running backs. You have Kerryon Johnson, Adrian Peterson, Drake. If you give him a bloated contract, he would be playing third fiddle to all those running backs they have in the Motor City.
I see why Shardul said that, and I think that it's realistic because I think that Detroit is a hot mess as far as general managing and player management goes. I don't think it's realistic, though, as far as Kenyon Drake agreeing to a contract to where he could be playing, third or second, probably second fiddle. I don't think that they would keep Adrian Peterson around if they get signed Kenyon Drake. But still, Kerryon Johnson, they really like what they see in him. I'm pretty sure, doesn't Sonny Michel play for him? No, he plays for the Patriots.
I think it was DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I think it was one of the Georgia running backs. So, yeah, and they wanted to develop him. So, I don't think he's going to be going there.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening as well. But there is one guy that I could see Detroit landing is Leonard Fournette, or not Leonard Fournette, Leonard Floyd the defensive lineman from the Rams. You know, the Rams, their new general manager is Brad Holmes, who was with the Rams and was in their scouting department. So he's got a lot of familiarity with Leonard Floyd. So I could see that maybe being in the cards for Detroit. And also, let's see, Austin Morrison says, thanks for answering. No problem, Austin. Thanks for asking the great question. And Chardot says, Cam Newton, for him, would be the new Carolina Panthers. Sammy, what do you think about Cam Newton going back to Carolina? For me personally, I just don't see that happening because, like with the Richard Sherman going back to Seattle, there was just a ton of like hard, bitter feelings over that breakup.
Yeah, that breakup was ugly. I think Chardell's at this point trying to troll us at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. But moving on to our next free agent, we've got Jonnu Smith from the Tennessee Titans, the tight end. Jonnu Smith last season for the Titans. Jonnu Smith had 41 catches for 448 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then the year prior, he had 35 catches, 439 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Jonnu Smith, Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he's more like he's not a receiving tight end, right? He's more of a blocking tight end. Or do I have that wrong?
No, he's more of a blocking tight end.
Yeah, he's more of a blocking tight end than a receiving tight end. But, Sammy, where do you think Jonnu Smith plays for in 2021?
I think he plays for where he was last year. I think that the Titans are going to try to keep him around and try to keep that running game intact. And Jonnu Smith is a very underrated receiver as far as because, you know, he's under the spotlight of what's his face? The big range. I can't think of their big wide receiver.
Derrick Henry?
No, the wide receiver that they have. I can't think of his name for some reason.
Corey Davis?
Yeah, no.
Oh, AJ Brown.
Yeah, AJ Brown. They're under his, you know, especially with Corey Davis too on the other side. You have Corey Davis on one side, you have AJ Brown on the other, and then you have Jonnu Smith over here trying to get the ball as well. I think right now he is a very underrated asset for the offense. They need to try to keep him around for the run game and as a safety valve for Ryan Tannehill.
Makes a lot of sense of him re-signing with the Titans. But, Sammy, for me, I got him going to the Falcons. You know, their new head coach is Arthur Smith, the former offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. And him and Jonnu Smith, they got a lot of familiarity. He knows the ins and outs of Jonnu Smith's game. And I think that, you know, him going to Atlanta gives Matt Ryan a guy that can be a great blocker for them, and also a guy that's also, like you said, an underrated receiver and another weapon for Matt Ryan to throw the football to. And also, if they do draft a young quarterback, and it will give their young quarterback another weapon to throw the football to, and it will give that young quarterback protection as well. So I think Jonnu Smith goes to the Atlanta Falcons, and Edward Leah agrees with me. He thinks Jonnu Smith goes to the Falcons, and for Chardot, his potential landing spot for Leonard Floyd is the Green Bay Packers. I like the thought, Chardot, but for me, I just don't see it because the Packers, they don't have any salary cap space, and the Packers, they don't have any salary cap space, and Leonard Floyd just wants a big-time contract, especially after his monster year last season. So I just don't see Leonard Floyd ending up with the Green Bay Packers. But moving on to our next free agent, and that is T.Y. Hilton from the Indianapolis Colts. You know, T.Y. Hilton, Sammy, is obviously not what he once was. He's 31 years of age. Last season had 56 catches, 762 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Had kind of an injury-riddled season in the year before, 45 catches, 501 yards, and just 5 touchdowns. But, Sammy, where do you think T.Y. Hilton suits up for in 2021?
I think he stays in Indy. It'd be hard to see him in another jersey. I really would be. I think that Indy does what they need to do to keep him around, and they find themselves a quarterback this offseason is the biggest. And that's the biggest challenge. Or not find themselves a quarterback, but they find themselves to surround their quarterback.
Sammy, for me, I got him going to the Patriots. You know, this is a perfect Patriots signing. You know, Patriots are a team that they don't, you know, give players the high money contracts that they ask for. They always, like to lowball their players. So I think T.Y. Hilton is going to get like a 1 or 2 year prove it type deal to prove that he's still, he's still he's still not the same player he once was, but he's past his injuries and he can still ball out there on the football field. So I got New England, giving him that 1 year prove it deal. Plus, New England, they need to upgrade the wide receiving corps, which was just horrific last season. You don't know if Julian Edelman, if he's going to come back. There's been talks that he's going to retire because of knee issues. I just don't even know the other guys on the New England Patriots wide receiving corps. That's just how bad they were. So I got him going to New England to help Bill Belichick and the Patriots upgrade that wide receiving corps. But Chardot says he's got T.Y. Hilton going to the New York Jets. I could see that being an option, Chardot, because if they want to build around Sam Darnold, or if they draft a rookie quarterback, they can give him a weapon to throw the football down the field to. So I could see that happening, but I don't think he will be getting that big of a contract. And also Chardot says the perfect landing spot or the potential landing spot for Jonnu Smith will be the Chicago Bears. Chardot, no, because the Bears, they just have too many tight ends. I mean, they drafted like a gazillion tight ends last offseason. They signed a bunch of tight ends. Jonnu Smith just wouldn't make sense for the Bears. But going on to we're almost done with this list, but our next free agent, and that is Patrick Peterson of the Arizona Cardinals. Sammy, Patrick Peterson, another guy who is not what he once was. But where do you see Patrick Peterson playing in 2021?
I think he takes a pay cut, and I think he's going to go to Tampa Bay. I know we just talked about earlier about how Tampa Bay wasn't going to go sign anyone, but I think that with them throwing the sink at Levante David, I think that Patrick Peterson's in the stage of his career where, like many other offensive players were with Tom Brady, where he wants to take a pay cut to go make something special happen out in Tampa.
That's a very interesting destination that you just threw out there, Sammy. But I got to go. I agree. I think he takes a pay cut, but I think he wears the red and gold next season and signs with my 49ers. The 49ers, they need a corner. They're slated to lose Richard Sherman. They could potentially lose Jason Barrett as well, and all their other corners on the roster. They're unproven players or they're rookies. So I think Patrick Peterson comes in. I think he's a good fit for this defense, and he takes a pay cut he takes kind of a pay cut, not that big of a pay cut, to try to be with the Niners and try to contend for the playoffs and try to hope maybe win a Super Bowl with the Niners. We don't know given their quarterback issues. But Sammy, what do you think about Patrick Peterson potentially going to the Bay?
I think you're crazy. I don't think that it would actually. I don't think that would be a good move for San Francisco, especially on I don't know what their game plan is right now. I don't think they know 100%. I don't know if John Lynch knows exactly what the game plan is next year, because right now they're in a predicament where they're losing a whole bunch of players in free agency that were to help them win now. And you have a team that has, a building block of young defensive linemen that keep on getting hurt. Do you want to keep Nick Bosa, and do you want to keep this young defensive line that has proven that they cannot stay healthy for an extended period of time? Or do you want to, draft yourself another corner, fill the rest of the team out with the players that, are proven but not big name players that would be solid starters, flyer type players. So I don't know if you're John Lynch, how do you want to build this team? Do you want to sign a Patrick Peterson taking a pay cut? But, he probably would not take a pay cut to be on a losing situation, especially a rival in the Niners. I don't think that he would go a Cardinal for life, would go play for a team that was the rivals of him for, 2 year stretch. I think that he honestly, that's why I said Tampa Bay. I think he wants to win a ring. because if you look at his resume, he was at one point one of the best corners in the league. He was one of the best return men in the league. All he needs really in his resume is a Super Bowl ring. That's all he really needs in that resume. But, as far as going to the Niners, I don't see it happening because they're rivals. And for the fact of, I don't know, do the 49ers want to win now, or do they want to construct their team where they're competitive now, but build for the future for a possible Super Bowl 5-6 years down the road, but just stay relevant now?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Like for the Niners, I don't know what they're gonna do either. Like as a Niner fan, I gotta admit that. It just makes no sense what they're doing. Their defense, they're losing a lot of defensive players, like you mentioned. Solomon Thomas, Ronald Blair, Sherman, all those guys are gonna be losing. So, you know, I really don't know what the Niners will be doing, but the reason why I have Peterson going to the Niners is because if they want to win now, they definitely need to address the secondary. And for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, it's never been in their track records to draft corners. They just never done it until like at least the 5th or the 6th round. So I don't expect them to draft a corner this year in the draft. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but I think they most likely get that corner help if they are truly wanting to win. I think they get that corner help in free agency. But Edward Lee, for him, he's got Patrick Peterson going to the New York Football Giants. Edward, I don't see that happening because it's a good destination, but Patrick Peterson is at the point of his career where he wants to win now, and the New York Giants are far from that happening. And Edward Lee says T.Y. Hilton, for him, going to the Rams. Sammy, what do you think about T.Y. Hilton going to the Rams?
I think that is a dream team, fantasy team type move. But realistically, it's hard to see that dude outside of a Colts jersey. And I think that he wants to stay in Indianapolis personally. So seeing him in a Rams jersey would be very tough.
Yeah, a bit weird as well. And, I could see it happening, but I think I have Marvin Jones going to the Rams. So that's why I can't put T.Y. Hilton on the Rams. But good thought, Edward. But moving into our final 3 free agents that we got for tonight. And we got Hunter Henry, the tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers. Hunter Henry, when he's been not banged up and he's been on the football field, Hunter Henry has been very productive for the Chargers. He's been a great red zone target for the Chargers as well. But Sammy, for me, I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think that the Chargers keep Hunter Henry. He's got a perfect spot there. He's got a quarterback that's a gunslinger that loves to throw the football down the field. And you look at Travis Kelce, look what he's been doing with Patrick Mahomes, and a guy that is a gunslinger that loves to throw the football down the field. I just think Hunter Henry, he's perfect right now for that Chargers system, and I think he's going to do wonders next season with the Chargers. But where do you have Hunter Henry? Is he staying in LA with the Chargers, or is he going elsewhere?
I think there's a strong possibility that he stays in LA as a Charger. But for the sake of this thing, I have him going to the Texans because, when I think of the Houston Texans, tight ends they've only been around since 2002. Owen Daniels and CJ Fedorowicz are very good tight ends. And for a short history, they have quite a couple names. And I would love to see Hunter Henry add into that, lore of Texans tight ends and be up in there with those 3. And I think that he would have a long career and he'd be very much loved by the fan base if he went to Houston.
Yeah, that would be an interesting possibility for the Texans. But, Sammy, I don't know who would be throwing him the ball, though, because is he willing to go to a place where we don't know who the quarterback is going to be? Because I don't think it's going to be Deshaun Watson when opening day comes around in September of this year.
Well, I had Jameis Winston going there, so he'd be pairing up with Jameis Winston. But I don't know either. I don't know who'd be the starting quarterback there either. So I don't – your guess is as good as mine. Probably Tua Tagovailoa, based off of what rumors have been going around with Miami and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, whoever like is the quarterback that is there, Hunter Henry would definitely give them a big weapon to throw the football to. But I just don't know if Hunter Henry would be willing to go to a team that has major question marks at quarterback. But Austin Morrison has a question for us. He asked, I know this isn't free agency related, but where do you guys think Zach Ertz will be traded to? Sammy, I'll let you take this first before I give my 2 cents on this.
I think I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to think about that. Do you have an opinion already, Isaiah?
Oh man, like I've heard like him being linked to the Patriots, but they do have like an abundance of tight ends. I've heard San Francisco because he wants to win, and imagine pairing Zach Ertz with George Kittle. That would be like a dynamic combination. But I don't know. Maybe Pittsburgh, maybe your Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean
All
that
right.
might.
No, I'll talk about it.
Oh yeah,
I
go
think he
ahead.
could go to Baltimore. He'd be a good fit in Baltimore. I think Baltimore right now, whenever you think about what Baltimore was doing 2 years ago offensively, they were utilizing a 2 tight end package for most of their play action plays. Deshaun or Lamar Jackson, I know you guys have been saying beef up the wide receiver core, beef up the wide receiver core. I don't think that's the move with the Lamar Jackson type quarterback for the fact of he's not a very accurate downfield thrower. Putting in wide receivers that are made for, ladder vertical speed, type of Deshaun Watson down the field game is not very smart with Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson is not that would be playing into his weaknesses. If you sign Zach Ertz is a very good dual threat tight end. He could block for you, run block, and then he could also, do those, little not swishes, those little those fade blocks where he goes out for fake blocks and then goes out for a couple more yards and an easy catch. I think honestly, the Baltimore Ravens would be a great fit for him. And I think that the Ravens would seriously benefit with him going and pairing up with Mark Andrews in a 2 tight end set like they had going on in 2019 when they went 14-2.
Man, that duo would be like the Patriots with Aaron. It wouldn't be like as dynamic as the Patriots with Hernandez and Gronk. But man, that would be a dynamic duo right there. But if I had to pick one, Austin, I would agree with Sammy and go with Baltimore simply because Baltimore, they do have salary cap space. They can take on his contract. They definitely need to upgrade the passing game for Lamar Jackson and for the Ravens. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore and agree with Sammy on this. But thanks for the question. And also, Casey King, Hunter Henry for him stays with the Renters. And also Chardot says Hunter Henry to the Arizona Cardinals. But moving on to our next free agent, we've got Jason Verrett of my San Francisco 49ers. Man, Sammy, this is going to really hurt my soul because I desperately wanted to say that Jason Verrett would stay in San Francisco, given the fact that we're going to lose Richard Sherman, we're going to lose all these other defensive players, but I just can't because with me having the Niners re-sign Trent Williams, there's just not enough cap space for the Niners to keep Jason Verrett in town in the Bay Area. So I got to go with the New York Jets because I know Jason Verrett, he's going to be trying to get paid after his bounce back season last year. He's got familiarity with Robert Saleh, having played for him when Saleh was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. It just makes perfect sense all around. I got Jason Verrett staying in the or going to the New York Jets, going to the Big Apple and playing for Robert Saleh. But how about you, Sammy? Where do you think Jason Verrett suits up for in 2021?
I'm sure you know that Stephon Gilmore is on the trade block, and that would open up more cap space. And that would also open up a position that I think Jason Verrett would be extremely excited to step in the shoes of, and being the number 1 corner for the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick. And I think that if the 49ers retain anyone, in this list of free agents, I think that Jason Verrett would be number one in that list. I know you said Trent Williams with the offensive line, but I think that they would steer towards having something resembling a defensive secondary, considering where we are in this league. I think that they could, sacrifice possibly Trent Williams with a quicker passing game or a quicker passing attack. But, to lose a corner in this league, it's very tough. It is very tough. The Steelers, they had they were blessed last year with 3-4 really good corners. Not a lot of teams have that. Patriots, up until last year, they've always had 2 or 3 really good corners that they could rely on, and it really helped them out, into 6 Super Bowls. And you could go on and on. Of all the really good teams the past year, most of them had 2 or 3 really good corners. And I think that Jason Verrett, if he's not saying in the Bay, he is going to the Patriots, in my opinion.
Sammy, I want to go to your point about the Niners needing to re-sign Jason Verrett. I agree with you that he needs to be one of their top priorities. But the reason why I'm reluctant to give Jason Verrett a big money contract like he's going to be asking for is because the dude prior to last season just couldn't stay healthy. I mean, whether it was concussions or leg injuries or arm injuries or whatever, the guy just hasn't been able to stay healthy prior to last season. So I'm really reluctant to hand him big money if he just can't stay healthy. If he's willing to take a 1 or 2 year prove it short-term big money contract, then fine, I'll give it to him, but not for 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, I think that's why he's going to the Patriots, because the Patriots are going to be desperate for young corners like a Jason Verrett, who's young, who's very talented, and they're willing to take that risk of if he's going to play, if he's going to be hurt, or if he's going to be healthy. Like you said, that he is injury prone. It's hard for a franchise with a very good GM like John Lynch is to give money up to players that are injury prone. It's very hard for GMs to do that to those type of players. So I think that, Jason Verrett not only going to go where the money is, but, he's going to go where he's going to have, a team where it has a chance of winning something in New England. I'm not saying that the 49ers don't, but right now how the New England would be built under what I have listed right here, they would be having a chance to win an AFC championship.
Also, another place for Verrett. I don't know if Austin Morrison is watching, but we know Verrett's going to try to get the bag this offseason. So, Austin, you're going to be happy to hear this, but another place that I could see Verrett going to is your Cincinnati Bengals, because the Bengals, they need defensive help desperately. Their defense was garbage last season, and I could see the Bengals with all that cap space that they have after striking out on so many free agents, going out and ponying up for Jason Verrett and giving him the contract that he wants. But going into our comment section, let's see. Austin Morrison was set. I was hoping you guys would say the Bengals when it came to Zach Ertz. Yeah, Austin, sorry about that, man. Zach Ertz, he's veteran guy, wants to win right now. And your Bengals, even though I like Joe Burrow, I don't think your Bengals are on the cusp of winning anytime soon. Let's see. Shardo Gupta says the best landing spot for Zach Ertz would be Green Bay. That's a good destination, Sammy, but I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about Green Bay for Zach Ertz?
I don't think anyone wants to go to Green Bay. Nothing against the team, but just the city itself. Not or the fan base, but no one wants to play in cold weather. They have the option to, and I don't think Green Bay is going to give up what the Eagles are going to want. And the one thing that Austin Morrison said, he said that he was hoping the Bengals would. The Bengals are going to be forced to give up draft picks if they are giving up Zach, if they're going to get Zach Ertz. And I don't think for the Bengals case, they would want to give up draft picks for an older player, 34-year-old tight end, and the Bengals defense. And the same thing with Packers. I don't think the Packers would want to give up what the Eagles are going to want.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, for sure. The Bengals, being that young team they are, they would definitely not give up draft picks for Zach Ertz, veteran tight end, on with 1 year left on his contract. Just makes no sense whatsoever. Casey King has Jason Verrett going to the New York Jets, and also Edward Lee. He's got Jason Verrett going to the New York Jets as well. But, Sammy, the time has come for our final free agent of the night, and that is Curtis Samuel of the Carolina Panthers. Curtis Samuel last season, in his first season under Matt Rule and Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, he put up really good numbers for the Carolina Panthers. And, Joe Brady and his offensive staff, they figured out the perfect way to utilize him, as he had 77 receptions for 851 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving for the Carolina Panthers. I believe I'm trying to pull up his rushing stats right now, but he had also a productive year rushing as well for the Carolina Panthers. But, Sammy, I'll start with you first on this before I give my 2 cents on this. Where do you think Curtis Samuel lands in free agency?
I think there's one of two spots. He's either going back to Southern Ohio in Cincinnati. I think the Bengals could really use him, and it would be he likes how he was used in college as the type of hybrid back, running back, wide receiver type of player. He loved that. That's actually how he shined in Ohio State. And speaking of Ohio State and shining in college, I think he's going to reunite with his old ball coach in Urban Meyer down in Florida in Jacksonville. So I'd love to see that if he does go back to Jacksonville. And he could possibly take back the old H-back spot if Percy Harvin doesn't come out of retirement.
Hey, that's a perfect fit for him, actually. But for me, I got him staying in Carolina because after the year that he had, after, Joe Brady found the perfect way to utilize him, he just fits Joe Brady's offense perfectly. So I don't think he goes anywhere. Also, let's see. Austin Morrison agrees with you, Sammy. He says Curtis Samuel going to the Jaguars to reunite with Urban Meyer. And I can see that because, Urban Meyer definitely likes to have that Percy Harvin type player where he can move around. He can use him as the running back. He can use him as a receiver, as a fast, speedy weapon. So I could definitely see that happening. Also, Austin says, I'll take Jason Verrett, though. Hey, you can have Jason Verrett to improve your secondary. And Edward Lee, with one final comment, says Curtis Samuel to Jacksonville. But, man, it's been a long show. We had so much fun, giving our picks for free agency. But, man, it's time to wrap things up and head into tonight's final thoughts. All right, Sammy, it was a great show tonight. We had a lot of fun doing this, man. I think this is your first 2-hour show since you joined Wild Sports Talk, so congrats. But what are your final thoughts for tonight's show?
My final thoughts is that it's about to be a crazy free agency, and Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be losing a lot. It's always fun doing these shows, especially whenever they're really long, Gets to get the more takes out, more debating. It's always fun.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we had more topics for tonight, but we were like, yeah, there's no way that we would be able to finish the free agency segment and get to those topics without either reaching 3 hours or 4 hours. And I know a lot of us have work tomorrow, so that's why we can't go that long. But it was definitely a fun night. We had all these picks that we made. Some of the highlights, if you guys missed it, I got Trubisky going to the 49ers. I've also got the Jaguars signing Juju Smith-Schuster, as well as Shaq Barrett. And I also got the Denver Broncos landing Leonard Floyd as part of my free agency predictions. And Sammy has Hunter Henry going to the Texans. He's also got Jameis Winston going to the Texans. And he has Juju Smith-Schuster going to the New York Jets. And John Alcorn is definitely going to love this. I know he's in the background right now listening to our show. But Sammy's got Mitchell Trubisky going to the Denver Broncos and being a backup for Drew Lock. But that's going to do it for our show tonight. It was so much fun. Thank you guys all for tuning in to the show tonight. We really, really appreciate you. Quick programming alert before we sign off for tonight, and that is we're not going to have a show on this upcoming Wednesday because, I got to go to work at the Levi Stadium vaccination clinic. Got to help out there, so we won't have a show on Wednesday. But next Monday, you guys see this leprechaun right there? That is in preparation for our St. Patrick's Day special on Monday. I know that St. Patrick's Day is on Wednesday the 17th, but we're going to have our St. Patrick's Day special on the 15th on Monday. We might drink some beer, Sammy, and eat some corned beef live on the air. I mean, why not? But we'll see what transpires during that show. Also, we're not going to have a show on the MI6 Sports Network from Tuesday all the way until Friday, because on Saturday the 20th we're going to be having our MI6 Sports Network 1-year anniversary special. It's going to be so much fun. It's a multi-hour program, so feel free to join us at any time for that special. But it's been a great show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. But until next Monday, until we see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys next week here on Wild Sports Talk. Have a good night, everyone.